Okay, where were we? We were continuing with the polity series, the static part, and we were covering paper 2. Okay, that comes in polity. Okay, so we were doing criminal justice system, and if you remember the code, see before starting the class, just take 5 minutes and revise what is going on. Okay, it was C triple P. Remember, C stands for criminal justice system. Triple P is first pendency of cases, then principles of justice, and third prisons. We had covered the first 2 P. Pendency of cases we had done. We had 4.4 crores are pending. Just go briefly through it. Second was principles of justice. There were 2 forms. One was John Rawls and the other was Plato. Remember? Okay. Those 2. And third was prisons. But before that, we'll do AIJS, All India Judicial Service. Then we'll go to prisons. Okay. Both are not somewhat related, but both are related to the judiciary. Now see, you all have been preparing for some exam, many forms of exam. So this is also one other form, All India Judicial Service. If this comes into play, you will have more vacancies and you will have more opportunities. Jokes apart, but this. But before that, what were the laws? Just keep into mind, what were Plato's 4 cardinal principles? Again, for revision, Plato, these are the points which always should be in your answer. Wisdom, temperaments, fortitude. Fortitude means again courage, and justice. These 4 lead to justice. Justice is again what? In simple, fairness. All this just hoda na, briefly remember. And third was John Rawls principle, RAWLS, okay? Principle of justice, and that code was LIE. Just think for a moment and remember. See, you have to go for mnemonics. That is how you. L stands for liberty, inequality and equality, okay? Equality means simple, equal opportunity. And what does inequality mean? I am emphasizing on it, inequality. Inequality means equal distribution of inequality. That is called the difference principle. Write it down. I means equal distribution of inequality. And what does that mean? The difference principle. Okay? Inequality is permitted only when it favors the least favored in society. Again, inequality is permitted only when it favors the least favored in society. For example, reservation, reforms in reservation. Okay? If you are not aware of it, then progressive taxation. What does progressive taxation do? It taxes the rich more, and comparatively those who earn less, it taxes them less. That's a bar set. Okay. Now today's topic, All India Judicial System. See, before going into the details, you need to know why are we getting this. Okay? Because we learned there is pendency of cases. Okay? There are present reforms needed. There are vacancy in judges. 40% of High Court. Remember, 40% of High Court is vacant. 400 something of 1000 something is still vacant. Okay? Because of there is more pendency of cases, there is lack in the trust of judiciary. All thing is acting as a vicious cycle. So keeping that in mind, what it was suggested was that we should have another services like All India Service, All India IS Service, IPS Service, IFS, many other services. And in the same manner, we should have All India Judicial Services. In the recent past, who has recommended it? Some body or some individual of high intellectual must have recommended it. That is why it came into being. Okay? So who had recommended it? First, the 14th Law Commission in 1958 proposed it the first time. Again, the 14th Law Commission. Okay? 14th Law Commission in 1958 had recommended it. They were visionaries of a sort. See, at that time they knew such things will happen. There will be pendency of cases, and the whole structure of judiciary will be to somewhat in shambles. Therefore, they had suggested. And second, who suggested it was in 1992, All India Judges Association versus Union of India. It directed to form the All India Judicial Services. Okay, again I'll repeat. In 1992, All India Judges Association versus the Union of India, they had directed the formation of All India Judicial Services. This was the basic. That who suggested it, from where this idea come up. Okay. Now, we are thinking of creating such a body, such an organization or such an examination. What are the benefits? The benefits must always be large for the society in general, for the nation in general. That is why such a thing will come up. So what are the benefits? The first benefit, see, it is a recruitment exam, right? So what does it mean? All India Judicial Service, like All India Administrative Service. So what do they recruit? They recruit for IAS officers. In the same manner, they are recruiting for judicial officers. So what are the primary benefit? That the number of judges will increase. Okay? There will be a direct relation between, see, first point and the most important point, the number of increase in number of judges. Okay? Now what does it directly relate to? Decrease in number of cases or pending cases. See, there is a direct relationship. If the number of judges will increase, simultaneously the number of cases, the pending cases, or the speed at which there is disposal of cases will drastically increase. The speed will increase, but the number of cases will decrease. Okay. Second is, see, now there's another, there's a perception in society, like most of us know how to crack an bank exam, how to get into the banking. Most of us know how to become an engineer or a doctor or other professions. Best example is most of us know how to become an IAS officer. But very few in society actually know how to become a judge. Okay? There is no exam for it. Okay? Apart from the subordinate courts, there is no exam to become a judge. You know that, right? If you don't know, that is the myth, that the educated society in India actually doesn't know how to become a judge or how to join the higher judiciary. So that is one of the issues. If such an organization comes up, if such a structure is made, then what will happen? It will attract talent. There will be a streamlined process that through this process you can become a judge or you can join the judicial services. What will that lead to? That will lead to attract talent, like many of us are preparing for n number of exams. Then we will start preparing, or the interested janta, interesting citizens will also start preparing for this exam. That will lead to increased in efficiency also. See, at the present state, most of us, the common people, don't know how to get over here. But the more people will be aware, more people will apply, that will attract the best talent and will increase efficiency also. Okay? As we discussed earlier, the number of cases has a direct relation, the number of cases will go down. है ना? If these two things, if you connect them, that increase in judges and pendency of cases, earlier it was what? A vicious cycle. Then it will lead to a virtuous cycle. Remember, the opposite of vicious cycle is what? A virtuous cycle. Vicious cycle is bad things lead to bad things and it keeps on going, leading to more bad. Very simple terms, right? In the virtuous cycle, if you do good, things will happen better and again good will happen back. That is called a virtuous cycle. All we want in society is that all the vicious cycles come to an end and everything leads to what? A virtuous cycle. Then, see, all this is simple. Like you don't need to think much or brainstorm much. Like in any other exam, what does this represent? It will also represent wider representation. है ना? Wider representation. But again, there's a negative point to it. I'm just adding it. If such a case comes, what will be the case of reservation in judicial services? As of now, what is the state of reservation in other fields, you know? But there is a bigger question that if such an institute comes up, what will be the case of reservation over there? But in general, we'll have wider representation as it will be reachable for more masses, more classes to be approachable to such. Again, there's a myth, as I told you, I'll keep reiterating that how to join the services, judicial services, is not to everyone's common knowledge. Therefore, there is always a case of nepotism, favoritism is there. See, we can't take names because it's judiciary and there's a separate topic which we have to learn, contempt of court. But you have seen many of the higher judicial posts are always taken by sons or daughters, whatever. Like the Chief Justice of some state or the country of India, his daughter, his granddaughter and son, they also join the services and become. We are not accusing anyone of anything, but the idea is that this all reflects an idea of nepotism or favoritism. Okay? But if such institute comes up, then nepotism at appointment of judges at higher courts will be decreased because everything will have a transparent process. What an examination have. See, another thing is our country is, how do I say it? It's there's a curse of examination in our country that everything is bugged, everything is like papers get leaked. But in the end, we still prepare, hota na, just for that glimmer of hope. In the same manner, if this will be there, then the whole process will be accountable. Okay? If something goes wrong also, we can approach the judiciary itself to see whether the judicial exams are conducted in a fair manner or not. So that all this will lead to decrease in nepotism, decrease in the very idea that there is favoritism going on. Okay? Then the best is transparency will be there and accountability will be there. There will be a body conducting such exams and there will be a whole process the questions which are raised will be very less, so there will lead to what? Transparency and accountability. These are answer common points which you can use in any answer. And last is, it will bring uniformity. See, it is an all India judicial services, ठीक है? So whoever will be selected, they will carry forward the idea like in the same manner. What is the idea of all India services, all India administrative services, all India police services? That there is a common idea, ठीक है? There should be uniformity in how the whole country is governed. There should be a uniformity in all the officers. That is why they are transferred regularly, so that there is uniformity. In the same manner, if we will have such a service, the whole judicial service of India, it is already in an integrated service, ठीक है? That will be more in concise, be more in synchronization with all India services. Okay. Unbiasedness is also another word which you can use. It will be more unbiased. Now, what is the criticism? Everything has to have criticism, right? See, all India judicial service, we had done constructive criticism with a redressal mechanism. So we'll see now the criticism part. See, if it is so good, why isn't rocking this place? Why isn't all over the news? The first criticism is, states have different languages, okay? Therefore different cultural barriers. Different languages, cultural barriers. What it means is, see, like, what is the language of the judiciary? Higher judiciary. It is English, है ना? But most, like, there is always a language divide, and there is always divide and a language debate which is always going on. But how will we unify them? Usually, होता है ना कि if you've given the UPSC mains paper also, there are many languages. But for the courts to function, there has to be a unifying language. But if there's a debate of language always going on, then how do we see that? That is one of the criticisms. Okay, then it will also affect federalism. That is, as the selection is granted. Federalism means, like, see, there's a body that is the same claim, or that is the same common comment which is common with all India administrative services also, and this, that who are the all India administrators responsible to, who are they loyal to? That is a union. They work in the state, whatever they spend their lives in the, but they are loyal, or they are under the patronage is not a very exact word, of the center. In the same manner, if such an organization comes up, they will be again administered by the center itself. So that will affect what? Federalism. And language is also a part of federalism. There is a whole fight between who is superior, which language is better. There is no such language which is better or not, but it's just what your roots are. Okay? That is it. Then this will also lead to another thing, that is increase in urban speaking individuals. See, as everything is somewhat related to language. People are there, okay? Exams are held in official languages. Then what will happen to those who don't speak such languages, or who are not much educated, or educated in some different language? Okay? So that will lead to a specific section of population, which will have the advantage of such exams. That will lead to speaking of urban speaking individuals, those who are more English oriented, होता है ना, modern sciences oriented. Again, see, the first part of the benefits that we discussed was that if there will be increase in number of judges, there will be decrease in number of cases of pendency. ठीक है? But there is no होता ना hardcore fact or data which shows this. For example, the same idea was brought up for the IAS and IPS. Earlier the seats were around, just a rough figure, that earlier the IAS seats were around 90. Now it has been up to 170, 180. But has the administration been better? In the same manner, the earlier seats for the IPS was around 90. Now it was 180, almost doubled. But again, has the police reforms been on the ground? Is the image of police changed? मतलब the whole act for which there was an increase in number, does it lead to ground changing results? That is the same question over here also. If the number of, it's a simple calculation that numbers will increase, then other side numbers will decrease. But on ground, does it lead? That is the question. Okay. Again, if you see the pendency of cases, that is not an all India problem. That is again a specific problem. For example, in cases like Kerala and Maharashtra, the judiciary respectively over there, or the number of cases pending is less. For example, I'm just relating to it. In prisons we saw, okay, there was overcrowding of prisons, but all India rate was what, 120%. But in Bihar it is roughly 150, 160 or more than that. So hota na, when we see an all India average, the number comes down. But when we go deep in state specific matters, then we see that numbers go up. In the same manner, in states like Kerala and Maharashtra, okay, the state of judiciary is better, okay, compared to other states. So it is not an all India problem. We are discussing about all India judicial services. So it is not an all India problem. So therefore decentralization is required, and local solutions, hota na, local formulas are need of the hour. See, if it's not an all India solution, it does not need to have an, if it's not an all India problem, it does not need to have an all India solution. So better will be if locals, hota na, like what were PRIs? That was localization, hai na? That was local solutions to local problems. Okay. Decentralization. See, this word is a very common word and you must write it almost in every answer. Decentralization. Whatever the problem is, decentralization is the answer to it. Okay? And to some extent, PRIs have also shown that they are successful. On the ground, they've able to carry change. Okay. Next is separation of power is always under threat. Okay? Separation of power is always under threat. Role of High Court would decrease in the selection of judges at district level. Okay? If there is a different body to have the selection process, the present structure which is going on, that has to be modified. Okay? But that is also seen as a criticism, because there is always separation of power as the judiciary, okay, itself decides. You've seen na, the cases in which how is this Chief Justice of India selected, how are the Supreme Court judges elected, that is mainly done by the judiciary itself. There was a NJAC, you might remember, take a few years back, national, okay, through this what they tried was National Judicial Appointments Commission. Okay. Through this organization or through this bill, what the union tried was to have a more active part, a more prudent part, a more reliable part in appointment of or selection of the judges. But this was claimed as null and void by the Supreme Court itself. So if all India judicial services come up, that will also lead to what? The center or the administration, like there is judiciary, there is bureaucracy, and there is executive. Then a part of judiciary, okay, the other organs will also have an active role, have a more percentage. The percentage will increase in how the judiciary is recruited. That is what? That will lead to conflict in separation of powers, which is now very stable. To some extent it is very stable. That will lead to separation of powers will be under threat, because now the administration, the machinery, or to some extent the politicians will also have greater say in how the judiciary is selected. Okay? And the best example is the role that High Court has in, you might read in every common polity book, that High Court plays a role in selection of district court judges. So if such an organization comes, its role might also be diluted. We'll see to it. Okay. Now, done with all India judicial services. Now we'll again do another almost never ending battle. It's a never ending battle of civilizations, of societies, of the humane culture or the inhumane culture. How society has evolved, all this is like brief intro. So first the word you need to remember is penology. Okay? Penology. What we are trying to discuss is death penalty. Okay? Like whenever there is a death penalty going on, a debate rises in not just India or local, a debate rises on national scale, global scale. That is death penalty still relevant, or after being so civilized, after being so educated, having all the amenities in the world, having all the social sciences in the world, and having all the psychological sciences in the world, do we still need what? Death penalty. We'll discuss it in very detail, and we'll discuss it with various examples and data points also. See, the basic answer is very easy to write, but how to enrich your answer, that is the question. Okay, so what does penology mean? Penology means how a crime should be punished. Okay? Whatever crime you do, crime equals percentage punishment. Like whatever the severity of your crime is, whatever crime you've committed or the other person has committed, or in general who has committed, the crime, the percentage of होता है ना whatever bad he has done should be equal to the percentage of the his sufferings. In simple, ठीक है, the crime should be, his punishment should be equal to his crime. Okay, now we've seen there were injustice also reformative, and there was retributive, which means an eye for an eye. ठीक है, retributive again an eye for an eye, but retributive is for what? Old form. Retributive is old form. What is the modern, होता है ना, educated society moving towards? Reformation, right? What are the jail system, prison system, judiciary system trying to do? Reform the society, है ना? The whole idea is reform. So in this present age, in this present stage also, when we are all trying to move towards reform, to reforming the society, reforming individuals in general, reforming the whole mental mindscape in general, then what is the role of retributive or an eye for an eye or death penalty? What is the role for it? Okay. What is the idea? But what is the idea of reformation? That is, life is precious and we all need to preserve and protect life. Okay. Again, life is precious and we need to preserve and protect life. Okay. Just we'll start with one data point. 720 people have been hanged from independence as of today. Okay. This is a rough figure. 720 people, just write it down, and all this should come up in your mains answer. This is how your answer will be enriched. This is how your answer will stand out. Okay. 700 people have been executed / hanged since independence. Now, we'll start with the debate. Death penalty. Sorry for my handwriting, but for now you might have got used to it. Okay. Again, we'll draw a big line. One side we are why in favor of it, and why should be abolished. Left is why it is abolished. Okay. And why the other side, why not abolished in simple. Okay. Not abolished. We'll go one by one. Okay. The why should be abolished is the first point, the most priority point is what? Just think of it. What is when someone is executed? What is when someone a hanging sentence is passed for someone? The first and primary thing is it is irreversible. Once it is done, you cannot go back. Life cannot come back. That is the very idea of reformation, that life is precious and we need to protect it. But once you are executed, it's gone. होता है ना, irreversible. That is first point. It is irreversible for the society or in general life. But what is the second point? Relating to it, first write just irreversible. Okay, I am just writing in short, irreversible. And the second point is what? The state itself, होता है ना, the state itself is committing a crime by executing you. You have done something wrong, or an individual has done something wrong, and they are being punished accordingly. But to give that punishment, someone has to come in. That someone is also being, होता है ना, it's a neutral person, but he, she, or the organization itself is committing a crime by giving you an execution sentence. That, matlab, it's a very large debate, but try to understand. Okay. Therefore, and state itself, matlab, just state means the whole machinery itself tries, matlab, it itself commits a crime. Okay? To stop a crime or to stop an individual, you yourself, matlab, see, it is like a necessity for the society also at the present stages, but that is a debatable topic, that state itself commits a crime. The second important point is also very important. Okay? We saw 720 cases, matlab, we didn't see the cases per se, but we got the number. After such a huge number, see, this is a matlab, magnanimous number, that 720 people have been executed since independence. But keeping this number in mind, keeping all the media houses, how they are presented, and all the hota na, pomp and show when someone executed goes on. But still, it does not act as a deterrence in India. Okay? Does not. I told you, na, remember the word deterrence. The whole judiciary, the criminal judicial system is mostly based on the word deterrence. Okay? So, it does not act as a deterrence. If it would have been acting as a deterrence, the crime rates would have gone down. Okay? The pendency of cases would have gone. But data and stats show that all this does not lead to deterrence. Okay. Now, we see the other part also, why it should not be abolished. We saw deterrence over here, but see, deterrence in India's case. Okay. In other cases also, but we strictly. But why it should not be abolished? Not first we will specifically case the case of Dubai or Middle East. Over there, it acts as specific deterrence. In the Middle East, there's no such thing as, not deterrence. Every crime is punished and brutally punished, and hota na, they make a spectacle out of it so that it acts as a deterrence. So in India's case, it's not acting as a deterrence, but in the case of Dubai or Middle East, it is acting as a perfect deterrence. Okay, and if there's a deterrence, what does that mean? It sends a message to the society. Reoffenders are also stopped, and those who are new or juvenile in crime, they are also stopped. Both ways. Now, in that case, you need to write down a case also. Jagmohan case was a state of UP. State has the right to take an individual's life through procedure established by law. Okay, so we are favoring death penalty. So that has been reiterated by judgment, which was Jagmohan case versus state of UP. See, Jagmohan case versus state of UP, in which it was said that state by you mean the law, the nation, has the right to take an individual's life through procedure established by law. Okay, now in the same manner, we'll discuss a case in this side also, that why it should be abolished also. Okay, not particularly why it should be abolished, but when it should be used. That is Bachchan Singh case, okay, versus state of Punjab. There the term was used what? Rarest of the rare. Rarest of the rare. In Bachchan Singh versus state of Punjab, it was, the judgment showed that in rarest of the rare cases, death penalty should be awarded. Again, in the rarest of the rare cases. Now, just for example, where has it abolished? Okay, European Union, okay, and not abolished in India specifically. But see, for all the, like, if there's a new law coming up or some new technology coming up, where do we usually see? Usually, see, I'm not trying to make a divide that we are equally good, but where does the newest technology, most carbon technology, where does it come up? In EU. For example, another example, where is the first digital production bill coming up? Like, we are still debating about it. Where are cryptocurrencies bill coming up? All is in EU. So we see Europe as a more advanced form of life. Not that say advanced form of life. Like, people over there, like the happiness indexes, if we see, if all the indexes, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they rule. Because the standard of living is better over there. Okay? And people are, the crime rate is also less. The data shows this. So in EU, as an example, it has abolished death penalty, and in our case, no. And in the Middle East also, they are sticking to it, and it is acting as deterrence for them also. Now, next is what? Another thing, when we read the Bachchan Singh case versus state of Punjab, and it was there said that in rarest of the rare cases, death penalty should be awarded. Now, it leads to another dilemma, or it leads to another nuance or a loophole. What is the definition of rarest of the rare? Okay. In most of the constitution, our constitution per se, there has been very technical words being used, but who is defining those? Like in ethics paper, what is honesty? Very vague definition, right? In the same manner, what is the definition of rarest of the rare? That is also a criticism in the part ki there is no definition, therefore it leads to what? When there is no definition, it leads to increased subjectivity, hai na? If there is no common set standards, that leads to increased subjectivity. And in the case of, strong point in the case of why it should be abolished also, Law Commission has recommended, very simple answer. If there is always a technical answer in paper 2, you can always recommend Law Commission has recommended this or that. If you don't even remember the report, you can just say in a faith of good manner that Law Commission has recommended that death penalty should be abolished. Okay. Now, let's come to why not abolished, okay, or why death penalty should be carried forward. The other is, we are expanding the word or the idea of deterrence. Okay? What is the ultimate aim of justice? Okay? What is the aim of judiciary? What is the aim of the whole criminal judicial system? Is to reform the culprit, is to reform the society. If the culprits, if the culprits are reformed, through whatever means, then what? Society is reformed. Culprits are individuals, and individuals are part of society, the larger picture of society which goes on. Okay, the ultimate aim of justice and the criminal justice system is to reform the culprit and therefore reforming the society. Okay, but what is the conclusion? The aim of justice is to stop crimes. The aim of justice is to stop crimes. When does one become a culprit? When he does crime. So aim is to stop crime. So to stop crime, deterrence acts as a most favorable catalyst, if you can say, deterrence. Okay? Justice is to stop crime, and faster conviction rates act as deterrence. See, if there will be more cases or frequent penalties will be given, frequent judgments will be taken, and they will be implemented in that same fashion, in the same fast pace, then what? It will lead to increased deterrence, and people will try to avoid such things. That is the idea. Faster conviction rates act as the greatest amount of deterrence. That is the idea. Okay. Now, in this side again we'll see, there's another case. In Harbhajan Singh case was a state of UP. Okay? We've discussed that in Harbhajan Singh case. Harbhajan Singh case versus state of UP. What happened was, in one same case, in one same judgment, there were two different interpretations. For example, you see now what is a dissenting view? Like there's a majority view and there's a dissenting view. For example, yesterday we discussed, the recent overruling or overturning of Supreme Court judgment itself in the case of governor and president timeline. Okay? So what was there? There was a 5 judges bench. For example, in other cases also, when there are plural number of benches, plural number of judges, there can be a majority view and a dissenting view. In the same, like in very specific cases, there can be two forms of view. The majority view is supported more. Okay? That is what is enforced. So, in Harbhajan Singh was a state of UP. What happened was, there was one judgment of death penalty. In the same case, there was one judgment that one judge gave a death penalty. And the second, what happened was, the second judge gave life imprisonment. Understood? In the same case, very specific case, one judge said that death penalty should be awarded and the other said was life imprisonment. So, that all this leads to ambiguity, uncertainty. And why it should be abolished? Very important reason is, if you'll relate it to history also, why it should be abolished. Again, I have to write this word again and again. Why it should be abolished? Ancient history. Remember everyone, ancient history. Buddhism, Jainism, all the heterodox sects, all the orthodox. What does they say? They all, Gandhiji, what do they all promote? Non-violence. Therefore, that is also another case that our culture, our society has been evolved or developed or transformed in such a way, we have been cultured in such a way that we all support non-violence. Okay. Other societal reasons also. See, these are now high-level topics going on. See, first was ancient India, that Buddhism, Jainism, then modern India, Gandhiji, we all promote non-violence and we try to reform the person. Okay? Gandhiji was very much against the idea of an eye for an eye. Okay, this was the ancient historical perspective. Now comes the societal reasons. Okay? Again, a disclaimer. See, don't get too personal in it. Societal reasons are general for the society. It's not equivalent to what the family of the victim is thinking. Okay? Just a disclaimer. What does the societal reason say? That if people are poor, it leads to crime. Like societal poverty leads to crimes. Okay? So we are not saying poverty leads to death penalty or crimes, but poverty leads to crime, and crime in some form is always aggravated with time. It increases and increases. Okay? Again, the last and the most striking point is, through death penalty, you've awarded someone, the judiciary has set up an organization and they have awarded death penalty, but they are not treating the cause. What is the cause? That is the transformation of society. The very cause is to stop all this. You're just treating it like a cancer. You're cutting off the part. You're giving death penalty. Okay? To some extent, it might be required, and in cases of India, I agree it is required. In cases of India specifically. Okay? But we are not thinking of the greater good. We are not thinking of removing the root cause why it is happening. That is a different thing. We have to start thinking over there. Okay? Now, why it should not be abolished. The last points over there, not abolished in cases of India specifically, and Middle East because it is seen as a successful example over there. So it is not seen as a successful example in India, but in the Middle East you see, like for India it does not create deterrence, but in the same case in the Middle East it creates deterrence. See, very specific examples. Okay, death penalty does not create deterrence. Okay, matlab if death penalty is there, it does not create deterrence. What creates deterrence is faster conviction rates and zero tolerance towards crime. In the case of India specifically, because you are giving an India exam, we have seen n number of reports have seen that deterrence does not cause, death penalty does not cause deterrence. But what causes deterrence? It's faster conviction rates. Hota na? When you approach the courts faster, and when you're listened to, your trial happens faster, and when the judgment comes faster, all this, and there should be zero tolerance towards crime. The main problem that India has is that we all know it. Ki crime is like an everyday affair. We are treating it like everyday, normal, rice, dal, but it should not be treated in such manner. And just two things, zero tolerance towards crime and faster disposal of cases, which is also related to what? Faster conviction. Okay, that was the topic for death penalty. Tomorrow we are continuing the class, but tomorrow again before starting the class, we'll revise all this. Now, what's the next topic? Remember triple P. After criminal justice system, we did P. First P was pendency of cases done. Second was principle of justice, Plato and Rawls also we did. Third is the last, in this three, the last, prisons. Okay. After that, then another P will come, that is police. We'll see to it. But now we'll see prisons. And the first thing about prisons that we remember from so many times is two things. 67% is what? Under trials, and the other 120% of occupancy. Okay? These were the data from previous classes. Now, again, what are prisons? Systematically you see the reason for this plus the reason for 67% of being under trials. Okay? These two are the main broad facts, but why is this happening? We'll see over here. What are the reasons due to which these two things are coming up again and again? First is pendency of cases. If there is more, see, there has to be a consuming capacity. Like there's a room, how many people can be fit in? Hai na? So in the giving an example of modern history, in modern history there was a case in which white death, aisa kuch it was named, white death something, that so many people of the English origin were pushed into a room and most of them suffocated and died. Okay? In the same manner, there is a capacity of that room, and in Indian prisons it has been far outreached. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? And why it has far outreached? Because there is pendency of cases, primary, judiciary illiteracy is there. Most of the B towns, C towns, or to some extent D towns, there is illiteracy. See, people are getting educated, that is a different thing. Okay? But illiteracy regarding judiciary, illiteracy regarding the laws, that. Okay? You might be a very educated person, but still you ask anyone what is an FIR, how to do an FIR, what are the clauses. That part is still very much illiterate for most of India, I can say. Okay? So first is pendency of cases, second is judicial illiteracy. Okay? See, when you write judicial illiteracy, you have to explain also that we are not talking about illiteracy in general. Most of the educated society intellectuals also have lack of common knowledge regarding the judiciary. Third is slow motion syndrome. Slow motion syndrome. We had discussed that once things are going slow, there becomes a perception that things are going slow and they'll go more slow, and the other people who are capable of doing things in a faster space, they also start going slow because the whole system is directed towards going slow. Out of this topic, another syndrome which we discussed was what? Broken window syndrome. Remember it. Okay? Then, and see, we are a poor country. Okay? It's not very much good to say it, but most of the population is barely struggling. So, if anyhow you come in terms with the judiciary, you will get to know that the amount of resources or the amount of money which it requires is huge. That is also another cause. That is high bail amount. When you are convicted, not just convicted, when you just get involved in this stage, you need to get a bail. So the amount of bail is very high. Okay? Then poor functioning of public prosecutors. Why are we saying public prosecutors? Because There is a clause in Article 39A, free and fair legal, free and fair legal, ठीक है, legal trial, sorry, free and fair legal trial. तो the private prosecutors are very costly, होता है ना, very much resourceful. So most of the people go to public prosecutors, and their problem is poor functioning. They themselves don't know the system a lot, because see, it's a government thing. Just write that in an answer, you'll understand what it means, ठीक है. And they are very unprofessional also, ठीक है, because you've heard in the movies na तारीख पे तारीख, just somewhat relate to it. Last is the last P, we'll not discuss this P, the police, ठीक है, because police is the most major part that anyone plays in anyone's case is police. The functioning of the police, the most part is investigation. See, investigation can go in, matlab the negative part we seeing, why all the, in two ways. First, the time which the investigation takes, and second is the quality. Both require very much effort. If the quality is good, your case becomes strong, take it, whatever your case may be. And if the time is also taken less, that will lead to what? Again, faster conviction rates. But if here it is delayed, if it is taking more time, then again the process, the vicious cycle of slow and steady and slow motion system goes on. And again the second, if the quality is also degraded, then that leads to again what? Pendency of cases. Okay? Understanding the vicious cycle? Okay. Now we'll go to specific issues faced by Indian prisons. Issues faced by Indian prisons. Okay? Now who has, someone came up with this whole idea, and they made a handbook or gave a committee report. So the name of the committee report is what? Amitabh Roy Committee. Okay? Amitabh Roy Committee. This should be the first line of your answer, that according to this report, these are the issues that Indian prisons are facing. First, again, 120%. Given by whom? NCRB, National Crimes Record Bureau. Occupancy is what? 120%. Second is infrastructure constraints. Okay? Now, if you see infrastructure, what does that mean? Okay? Infrastructure comes in two parts: human capital and the buildings part also. Okay? Building is like there is not sufficient prisons, there is not sufficient prison rooms, there are not sufficient toilets, these things. And human is there are not enough people to accommodate. There are not even enough human resources to get the day-to-day works going, or to get the security system up and its place. These both come in infrastructure. Okay. See, I am forgetting the name of the case, but 2 years back in UP, many of the unfortunately infants died due to lack of oxygen. Okay? I'll just, in the next class, I'll tell you the name of the case. And the doctor was accused, okay? But according to the judgments, that he was said that he is not the perpetrator, he is the victim itself. But in that whole scenario, that doctor, specific doctor, had to spend his vacation in jail. Matlab, that's a sarcastic way of saying it. But he was sent to jail, and he spent a considerable amount of time, to my knowledge, 1 year approx in jail. In that, he wrote letters, okay? And he showed the infrastructure of what the present jail conditions are. Okay? He showed that more than 20, 30, 40 people use a single toilet. Okay? Imagine the infrastructure shortage. There are no people to clean those things. Again, imagine the human infrastructure, which is very less. Just relating to examples that this committee said this report, but when you see related to the current society, when you see related to the current affairs, current news, then you can understand it with depth. Okay, this is the committee is just showing the surface. But when you see such reports, then you understand the depth of it. Okay. Infrastructure we discussed. Then 30, that human capital is, there is 30 to 33% vacancy. See, the vacancy is not just in the judiciary. Okay. Vacancy is in the like clerical jobs also of the prison. There is also vacancy in the high courts vacancy we saw already, but vacancy is always there. And for some reason, I don't know what, for some reason, it is not being filled up. Okay. Vacancy is also there in prisons. Then is again, like one of the gifts that the British gave us was corruption. Corruption is rampant, increased corruption, rampant in jails or the prison system. Okay. If you see, this is a very इनफॉर्मल इन्फॉर्मेशन, ठीक है. Who runs the jail? If you actually see the system, who runs the jail? It is the person inside the jail, not the structure, not the machinery, not the police, not the guards. They don't run the jail, because the number of persons convicted, perpetrators, or just under trials in jail are much more than the person trained to handle them. The ratio is too large. Like for example, if one guard is there, for him there will be 10 plus perpetrators or victims under trial. So they can easily overpower them. So in actuality, who runs the prisons is, there is a synchronization going on that they run it, and the organization, the structure, the police, the public officials, they just steer it. Hota hai na? They just have an overhand over it. They just keep an eye on it. But the actual running is done by them. This is also seen by some recent, again I am forgetting the name. Some series has come up in which they try to show exactly this, that the jail is run by the inmates themselves. Okay. Again, so, and if there is corruption in n number, we've seen that some high profile person has been living a lavish life in jails. We've seen many of those cases. So what does that happen? Who is accountable? Like if common people, we both have any issues, then we go to judiciary. But who is there to look after the corruption system, the jails itself, where people are sent to rehabilitate, where people are sent to reform? No one is, see, if you see the ethical angle also, that jails are seen as a dogma sort of, like the whole society sees it in a very negative fashion. So if something wrong is also going on, then we try to overlook it. That we just simply say that they deserve it. They might be deserving it, they might not be deserving it. That's not a question which we answer. But the whole society sees the prisons and the jails in a very negative light. That also leads to what? Corruption is going on, but that leads to the hiding, that there is a curtain between the society in general and prisons, and that curtain stops the normal people, the intellectual people, to go through that curtain and find out more reasons how to reform. One of them being corruption. When we are looking at those things in a negative fashion, we just let it go. Haan, wahan ho raha and they're deserving it. Okay, we just went slight out of topic, but that is an ethical angle also, that prisons are palm of society and they should be integrated. There should be ways in which that should be integrated into the society. That is how. What was the main idea? The main idea was to reform society. The secondary idea was to punish, but now it has become the primary idea, and reformation of society has been lost. Okay, now my next point was the same. There was no focus on reformation. See, there is very much less information about what is going inside the jail system, what is going inside those big 20 feet, 25 feet or 30 feet walls, what is going. So whatever we get there is knowledge from these reports or some web series or some news reports. But the whole idea is, again, there is no point being driven for reformation. The whole point is that people are seen over there neglected, that you've committed some crime and now you too pay the price for it. But there is no angle for reformation in it. There is no humane approach to it. Okay. If there is no such thing, imagine what will be the condition of health conditions and mental conditions. See, mental condition in India is a very vast topic, but one of the most neglected topics. For a society, for a demography such large, if we start talking about mental health, which is very much required, such large demography, like no one is listening to you, it all leads to mental distress, but there is no one to talk to. So imagine the condition, the same condition what the prisoners might be having. They are already neglected in society. See, what they have done is wrong, but still, after that they are neglected in society, and if no infrastructure is there, no people are there, who will be looking at the mental health, physical health? No one. Okay, these were we are still discussing, don't forget the topic, issues of Indian prisons. These are the general issues of the prisons worldwide, but India, because we've got such a large population, it aggravates. Okay. Next, these were the problems in general. But imagine if all these problems are done, for the women prisoners, the situation is worse again. Women prisoners are more vulnerable. Okay? Imagine the same health conditions, the same working conditions, the same toilet conditions. Their conditions becomes more bad, more inclined to more aggravation. Okay, women prisoners are more vulnerable. Next is human rights violence goes on. It's simple, yeah. There is no police check, and most of them are perpetrators themselves. Most of them are violent people. What do you expect? there should be machinery to stop it, but we are discussing the issues. So violence is another form that prisons are very much violent. Again, going out of topic, if such places so much violent, where is the reformation part? Just think, you have to relate कि all these things are happening, that is why reformation is also not happening. Okay. And the last is, there are many more, but important points was, who are under trials? Under trials are those persons who have not seen the light of the day of the judiciary. They have just been, there's a case against them and they've put it in jail. Okay? So they haven't been convicted as of now, or they haven't been seen as perpetrator as of now. But under trials also have to share the same space as normal convicted persons. Okay? Under trials and convicts are kept together. So their whole mental condition, just imagine that it's a very crude example, a very rude example. Like a normal thief, I'm assuming that he's a thief. He's not under trial. But if he starts to share the same room, share the same space with a murderer or a rapist, what will the impact he have? And just imagine if he's just an under trial, not even convicted as of now, what will the impact he'll have? This all comes in the larger picture of mental health, physical health. Violence goes on and nothing over here leads to reformation. Okay. The psychological impact is also huge. See, crimes are directly, indirectly related to psychological impact as we discussed, because crime is a part of society. Poverty leads to increased crime because it also has a psychological impact. Okay. Now, so much of crying we did that all this is going on. Now we'll see what are the solutions. These solutions are mostly on paper. I'm sad about saying this, but solutions are mostly on paper. If you see the condition of the prisons, they are pathetic. Okay, but still we have to discuss solutions. Now, what are the solutions? First, again, the committee report is same, remember? See, first the Amitabh Roy committee did what? It said these are the problems like constructive criticism. Now comes the second part, redressal mechanism. What are the solutions? Amitabh Roy committee. Okay? By heart this name. Whenever it comes to prisons, police, you have to mention this. Now, what are the measures? First is, see, we have to see the larger picture. First, the big problem was overcrowding. Okay? Overcrowding. So, how do we solve the problem of overcrowding? First and foremost is through speedy trials. Reduce the time span. Speedy trials. If there will be more speedy trials, less people will go inside jail, less people will go outside jail. Therefore, overcrowding will be less. Next, the lawyer ratio should be 1:30. We discussed public prosecutor's point, right? In that also, lawyer ratio should be 1:30. This also leads to what? Speedy trials. That will lead to less overcrowding. Okay. And last is there should be special courts also. Again, number of courts will increase, number of judges will increase. That will all lead to less number of cases. Got it? Okay. This can also be seen as there should be more accessibility towards lawyers. Okay. Common people like us, leaving us, we don't even know, like if a person from a village, how will you approach a lawyer? There is no specific process. So accessibility should also be looked into. Accessibility to reach to a lawyer, to hire a lawyer. Okay. Now, this was the problem of overcrowding. Now, problem we'll see in this manner. Okay. First, what we need is legal aid. Not an Article 39, many other articles are that free legal aid should be there. Okay. For the downtrodden in society or just for those people who can't afford it in simple manners. Second, we have to use technology. Okay. Nowadays you can see what? There is video cameras, audio cameras, audio visual cameras on High Court, Supreme Court. That leads to what? The whole society is now involved in it. है ना? So it can also happen. ICT in communication technology should be used for video conference, so that it could happen in both ways. Okay? At the personal level and at the institutional level. First, through this, cases can be disposed of easily through remote locations also. How remote locations? See, if you're traveling from one place to other, it takes time. But within the, there has to be how it needs to be done, that has to be articulated. But for example, if you're in your own city, society, wherever, and you can avail the judicial services, internet and communication technology services at your place. Within there might be some constables or there might be some police machinery looking at you that you don't run away. But how much time there can be? होता ना eased out. You'll be traveling someplace and then you'll get a date. So much cumbersome process. But if this same thing happens at your home, and if you're convicted or seen as a victim, there should be appropriate authority to take action immediately. All this will lead to speedy trials. Okay? And okay, speedy trials. Then there's a very high-tech word, accommodative transformation. Okay? That is why again the structural part of society, the transformation part. How to transform an individual, how to bring them back to the normal society. That is what accommodative transformation. Okay? Again, there are two factual data points in solutions which you should remember is section 436. Solutions we are discussing. Section 436A. Okay? Now what does this say? Write it down. Section 436A. It says, and according to it, CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. Okay? See, there is CRPC, again for the first time saying it right, there is IPC, and now all that has been clubbed together in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. We will dedicate a total class to what are the changes, major changes in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and we will discuss that. Okay. Now what does section 436A of Criminal Procedure Code say? If you spend 1/3 of your punishment, matlab whatever crime you've committed, and whatever is the justiciable punishment for that, if you already finished 1/3 of that punishment, you've gone through that process, then bail should be there, automatic bail should be there. If you spend 1/3 of your prescribed punishment in jail, then there should be, these are for specifically under trials, like you haven't gone to trial, no one knows whether you're a victim or you're a perpetrator, but given the Indian conditions, given the Indian prison scenario, if you've already spent 1/3 of your time doing, having punishment for something which has not been proven yet, then bail should be automatically done. Remember this, section 430. It's a novel feature, but it's good. Okay. Next is Law Commission recommendations. Okay, we discussed Amitabh Roy Committee. Now, because it's a law matter, then we'll discuss Law Commission recommendations. Law Commission recommendation. Now what does our famous Law Commission, there has been numerous Law Commission reports. If you study deeply, you understand there are various Law Commission reports, and we'll discuss one of them. Okay? If someone / an individual is wrongly convicted or tried, then compensation should be given, and compensation should be what? Compensation, compensation, monetary and non-monetary. Sorry for my handwriting. See, monetary is a very big part of society. In fact, the most crucial part, but it is not just a part. So, what the Law Commission is saying, if someone or an individual is wrongly convicted, wrongly convicted or wrongly tried, then if some date is found out that the whole process was wrong, then he should be compensated in both monetary manner and non-monetary manner. There should be, second is what? Non-compartmentalization. See, you have to use such technical terms in your answers. See, words are paper specific, like these terms you can use, polity terms, articles you can use in paper 2, economic terms you can use in paper 3. You have to be paper specific. That will show the depth of your knowledge. That will show how you are a well-read person. So the next word is non-compartmentalization. What does it mean? No compartment, sorry if I've said no compartmentalization means that, now what happens is, this is the present state, now we'll discuss the solution. The present state is that the police works as a whole, there is no separate wing for investigation. There's just one police unit and it is doing all the cases, from robbery to murder cases to high profile cases, everything. So there should be compartmentalization, there should be a different separate investigation wings. If there is, this is the solution part. If police has a separate investigation wing, then again that whole cycle of speedy trials will come into function. Now police is overburdened. We'll see in the police reforms, police is practically overburdened. But there is no specific knowledge also. Like there is already overburdened police, and there is no specific knowledge, domain knowledge, how to do better investigation, how to do faster investigation. That all leads to again the vicious cycle. But if there will be a separate wing, if there will be a separate team, if there will be a separate organization within the police itself who just leads or who just sees how to investigate, and they will be very much trained in this specific scenario for this specific case, then again everything will lead to speedy trials, and there will be less pendency of cases, and there will be police reforms, there will be prison reforms, there will be in general life reforms. Okay. Another simple point is we discussed section 430 for bail. In the law commission recommendations also it was said that getting a bail should be easy. Now we are seeing the simple solution is getting the bail should be easy. Now we are seeing it in two parts. First is the monetary part, because getting a bail is very costly, so it recommended that the monetary value should come down. Okay, this was the normal. The second is now how society is seeing it, again an ethical angle, how society is seeing it. See, if bail is seen as liberalized format now, like liberalization, the conditions of bail, if they are liberalized, the society sees again it in a negative manner. What the society sees it, nahi, someone has committed a crime and they should be penalized more and more. Hota na? But until it comes, this whole idea is until the date that it comes to your doorstep. The day it comes, such cases happen at your doorstep, then you understand the cumbersome process, and then you realize that bail conditions should have been liberalized. Okay, again I went out of the topic. Again, another solution is e-prisons. Okay, e-prison simple means is paperwork should be decreased or digitization should be increased. Okay, digitization should be increased. All this will again in a very small format, but to some extent in a very large format will lead to speedy trials. Okay, e-prisons, smoother functioning of prison management. All the paperwork, if it is concise or there is a centralized system which has been made, then all this will lead to smoother functioning of the prison management. Another solution is ultimate aim of justice is what? Ultimate aim of prisoners, the whole jail system is what? To reform the prisoner. Okay? That is what? Reformative justice. Reformative justice. Again, just a flashback, there were three types of justice: distributive justice, reformative justice and retributive justice. It should be on your fingertips. Okay? And formation of society. Okay? What is the idea of justice? Reformative justice and reformation of, plus I'll write in society, because everyone is a part of society, even the criminals, they are a part and parcel of society. Okay? Therefore, formation of society is important, and within the society reformation of individuals also. So we said now accommodative, last we discussed what were the issues, accommodative transformation. Now this is what? The prison should have what? Skilling programs. This you can also relate to what? We said if someone is given undue punishment, or it is found that they were the victim itself, they will be given monetary and non-monetary. This is a part of non-monetary. Imagine if you spend few years of your time, like it's just saying like few, but horrible few years of your time in jail, and if you are not skilled, when you come out, nothing to do. Even the society also looks down upon you. So in reformation, one thing comes is skilling program. You are in jail, you are carrying forward your punishment, but you should also be skilled. Okay, provide skill training, reformation training, and to many extent to the knowledgeable world also, psychologically also there are psychological classes also. There are proper criminal psychologists sitting there trying to listen to you, trying to reform you. Those things are also going on. Then basic is in most of my classes I have told you, whatever is the solution, the opposite to, whatever is the problem, the opposite to that is the solution, or whatever is the solution, the opposite to that is the problem. There was problems in infrastructure, both human and capital, so better infrastructure, that is another solution. Both human infrastructure should also increase, the number of individuals in the from public at large, from the organization should also increase, plus the buildings, both should increase. Okay? That is improving infrastructure. And another thing, as I told you, in modern prisons, not in India, okay, mental health is also taken up as a very big thing, a very big issue, and there are specific teams, specialist doctors which look into it. So should be, or such practice should also be inculcated in Indian prisons. Okay? Mental health. Okay? Because this leads to reformation of the individual and the society. Okay, and last is, we'll end it today's class with a very good example. The example is Anantpur jail. Okay? Anantpur jail. See, this is a very beautiful example because you will try to understand how specifically they are trying to improve the prisoners, how they are trying to with the mental health, the physical health, and the whole society in general. In Anandpur jail, there is a concept of what you know, open jail. I'm sure you might never have heard of it. Open jail. Okay. In this, what happens is all the prisoners, they move out of the premises of the prison, they do the daily work, and then they come back. Now this leads to multiple impacts. First, they have a normal connection with the society, the outside world. See, when you're in a jail now, your whole world is just that much and you're closed in it. Imagine the pressure that you have. See, I'm not sympathizing with the perpetrators, but I'm just trying to see an intellectual view of what the mental mindscape would have been. So what Anandpur jail did was, they started an open jail, that when you have to work, you'll go out of the system, you'll go out of the jail, you'll work, do your daily business, and then you'll come back. It leads to what? Some kind of mental refreshment also, that you are still connected with the society to a very small extent, but you are. Okay, so where is this? This is in Andhra Pradesh. You can also quote this in your answer, Anandpur jail. Okay, that was all for today. We've discussed the solutions also. Tomorrow, we'll see the larger picture, how all these work, the laws with which it works, that is the legal framework. Okay? That is IPC, CRPC, Evidence Act, and the latest Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which have been going on for so many days. We'll finally see what all this, how it has changed and how it all has evolved. Okay, so best of luck and keep revising. Thank you.